Welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com, or if you're watching on our YouTube channel, Tar Heel Illustrated. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me, as he always does, our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And Andrew, we're here for the 11th episode of our UNC football ISO series, which we've been running out over the past couple weeks and months. If you haven't seen the other ones, you probably heard me if you've been watching our other ones already. The spiel I've been given, just head on over, click the link below. You'll see our channel linked under there. And you can find a playlist on the front where you can find all of those videos in there already. So if you haven't seen those, definitely wait till this video is done to go check them out. But yeah, you can find those pretty easily. And as you'll see linked up here and in our description, head on over to TarHeelIllustrated.com and sign up for our premium message boards for just $8.33 a month. You get a ton of stuff and a ton of perks that come along with that. I'm on the boards. AJ's on the boards a ton. Dina King's on the boards a ton. Our basketball recruiting expert and David Sisk is on there. And a lot of stuff that they do, we do not run on the front. You can only find if you're signed up for those premium boards. And there's also some other stories that we do post on the front that you can't read unless you're a premium subscriber. So go ahead after this video is done and sign up for just $8.33 a month. But AJ, we're here to talk about another true freshman in this one, and Rara Dillworth. I'm not going to try to pronounce his first name. We were talking about it a little bit off camera, and I was getting all kind of tongue twisted trying to figure out how to go about it. So I'm just going to stick with Rah-Rah for now until we get that Jones Angel pronunciation on the UNC football roster here over the next couple weeks. So
Ranieria, I think. I think it's Ranieria.
That's good right there, man. I've met the guy.
But Rah-Rah is more fitting. Rah-Rah is more fitting.
It's a lot easier.
I got to tell you, friend, if there's a dude that just digs the fact that people call him Rah-Rah, I think it's Rah-Rah.
I think it's Rah-Rah.
I say that in a very positive way.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to go ahead and give a little background before we dive into him. I've got a chance. He's a guy that Dina King, as you guys know, if you watch our football recruiting podcast or just read our stuff, Dina King is loved Rara Dillworth's game for a long time. I've got a chance to see him before he got at Carolina as well. Got to shoot ISO on him at a VTO camp a few months back. Also got to see him at another camp as well. And super impressive kid, super nice kid to talk to. Fast. I mean, I think I have a video of him running a 4.40 at one of these camps, which is amazing for a guy that plays linebacker. But overall, kind of transitioning now to the spring, I think he's a guy that early on in one of those first, I'd say the first or second open practice that we got to see, which was, one of his first practices of his Carolina career and college football career. You saw learning curves, you saw a lot of coaching moments, saw a lot of teaching moments. But as we kind of got access to, I think we had 3 practices in the spring game that we were able to go to, we kind of saw him develop more. We saw him look a little bit better, look a little bit more confident. I think it kind of accumulated in how him and I'm going to say Power Eccles' name as well because they made a couple big plays together in the spring game. I think it all culminated with him playing really well in the spring game and showing kind of what the future is like for him and Power at that linebacker position. Now, how much he's going to play this year remains to be seen. We've seen in the past with the likes of Gimmel and Chaz Surratt, Carolina and Jay Bateman, they do not like to rotate that linebacker position a lot. So how much he gets on the field is going to remain to be seen. Obviously, Kadri Jackson's gone now, so opens up a little bit more room for maybe a guy like Rara or Power to kind of slide in there and play a little bit more. So that's to be determined. But I think what we saw in terms of just the evolution of Rara from kind of day one to the first practice we saw to the end of spring practice, I think you've definitely seen the improvements. There's still a lot that needs to be done in terms of size, physique, physicality. But, man, when you talk about a guy that can fly sideline to sideline and is not scared to hit anybody, I think Rara Dillworth is definitely one of those guys.
Well, if we're talking about staff infatuation with Rah-Rah's game and infectious personality, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Kevin Roy.
Yeah, big Rara guy.
Who's got perhaps a slightly unhealthy appreciation for Rara Dillworth's game, which is why we have like 6 hours of practice video just Rah-Rah. Mm-hmm. What it is, I mean, Kevin shot a 7-on-7, I think, that he played in, also another camp. We've had a lot of Rah-Rah stuff for one reason, because Rah-Rah loves a camera.
He does.
And he would come over and appreciate the fact that we would shoot stuff. But I think that's good. I talked about Josh Downs' moxie on offense. You got to have guys like that on defense too. And when Rah-Rah is ready to step on the field and plant a flag in the soil on one of those positions at linebacker or wherever he ends up, probably linebacker, I think that he's going to bring so much energy and vitality and moxie to a defense that is necessary that you have on the field. Now, between now and that point, we're going to watch what you alluded to. We're going to watch him develop. Part of that's going to be his body. He's not big enough now, but you know what? He's a football player. He's sideline to sideline. If he can cover and if he can stick, we saw him stick a few times in the spring game and also in some of the scrimmages that we watched before the spring game that we were allowed to be in for. You know, a football player could pop that's got his athletic ability, that's got his heat-seeking missile kind of way about him. They get on the field and they can deal with it. Sometimes you got to play a little bit undersized, but if the guy's always there making plays, then the undersize doesn't really matter as much. You would prefer that he ends up at 225, 230. I don't know what he's going to end up. We'll see that materialize over time. But he is a good football player, and he's clearly a fast learner. That was the third practice that you were talking about, by the way. It was our first open practice. It was the third practice. It was their first day in full pads. And I went over, I was going around all the different position groups, and you were camped out over in that corner for a while. And I went over there, and we were watching Rah-Rah together. And we kind of joked, we can't really get much film right now because Tommy Thigpen's just sitting there talking to him.
Yeah.
Because they'd run a drill, Rah-Rah would break the wrong way, and Tommy would talk to him again. He wasn't really talking to Power. Power was clearly ahead a little bit. But by the time they got to the end of spring camp, a lot of those lessons had been learned. He's clearly a smart kid, and he's got all the tools. He just needs to get bigger. He needs experience. He needs to go through the summer workouts, which they're doing right now, and then fall camp, and he'll be a little bit bigger. I can't wait to see what they list him as. And they may not give us a July listing in July. We may have to wait till the game notes come out for Virginia Tech to really see what Rah-Rah weighs. But, I think that there's a chance he gets on the field. He's going to play special teams. My guess is, especially now that Jackson and Spotsville are gone, they would have had spots sewn up on special teams. They'd have been very important players. So you might see Rah-Rah out there. But that linebacker room is not that deep right now in terms of numbers. You've got Gemmel, Asante, Cedric Gray, who I guess would be the third guy right now, and then there's Power and Rah-Rah. So there could be opportunity there for him to get on the field, especially if they do embrace the idea of subbing out some, which they haven't done the last couple of years. So I look forward to seeing what he is in August when we get to go to practice. I look forward to seeing what he is at the end of November, see how much he develops. And then, of course, down the line, it's very difficult to not project that at the very minimum, he'll be a very good ACC player. He checks every box for me. Every box you could imagine. Just to throw a guy on the defensive side of the ball. If there's a positionless dude you could put out there, just say, go get the ball.
Yes, Rah-Rah.
Rah-Rah's that kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. And like I mentioned, when you got a guy at linebacker who you're going to put weight on, but has ran a 4.4 before, I mean, that kind of tells you all you need to know. It's just sideline to sideline is so fast, such a good athlete. And like you mentioned, a character, a guy that's got a little bit of swag to him, like you mentioned in Josh Downs. So, yeah, really interested to see how he continues to develop, not necessarily this year, but going into the future and going into his, as an upperclassman and how his career continues to develop. Now, I want to ask you one last thing before we wrap this one up. I'm going to ask you a similar question to what I asked you about William Barnes in the video we did about him. But best case scenario, what I mean when I say best case scenario is best case scenario for Rah-Rah, and this is barring any injuries. I'm not talking about if someone goes down. I'm just talking about best case scenario for Rah-Rah right now if everybody stays healthy on the defense. Do you think his role probably is going to be more – I mean, I think he's probably answered my question already. More on special teams than it is going to be at linebacker. What do you see maybe his role being best case scenario for him?
In the day and age of touchbacks on kickoffs, one of the things I look for, because I'm anal and I like to take notes on just about everything, is that the kickoff team, the guys will generally run through the end zone during kick coverage, okay? And you over time you can see who are the first couple of guys that are through the end zone on a touchback every time you kick off. Rah-Rah, number 11, is going to be one of those guys. Yeah, I think he'll be on the kickoff team. I think he'll be on some other stuff, but he's going to be one of the first dudes down the field. He's going to run through the end zone, and he's going to take tremendous pride in that. I think we'll see that. But I think that illustrates the kind of player, the kind of kid that he is. As far as the linebacker position goes, right now, I would think he's fifth right now out of those fives because Power looks more the part. Cedric Gray's been there. And then, of course, Gimmel is a pro. Mac has really made a point this spring saying Gimmel's a pro. And I think Asante's got a lot of those same kind of attributes. You get a little bit bigger, I can see him having an extensive opportunity at the next level. So I don't think those guys are going to come off a lot.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So cracking through, passing those other guys might take some time. But you know what? We saw Jaquarius Conley's path last year to getting on the field more regularly. I could see Rah-Rah taking a similar path. The difference is Conley was at nickel and there wasn't as much resistance in that room. There is that resistance. There are more people to pass at linebacker. But I think more 22 and 23, I think Rah-Rah is going to be a sensational player. He's going to be a fun player. He's going to sort of do for defense what Josh Downs does for the offense. I think fans are going to like him because of his name, but he plays up to his name. He's a guy befitting a fun name like that, and I think that's kind of cool. People will remember him because of his name, but they'll also remember him because of the kind of player he is. And by the way, he's a character. He's got a lot of personality, but he's got the kind of personality, a lot of it that doesn't distract. Everything that I know about him, and Dina has told me, and I've leaned heavily on Dina for the last 2.5 years learning about this young man, is that he's got all that juice, but the juice doesn't distract.
Yeah.
He knows when to turn it off, when to turn it on, and how to use it to his advantage, and how it can be infectious with teammates. I think that's the kind of guy we'll see over time.
I agree. Like I said, I haven't had nearly as much interaction with him as Dina has, but from the few times I've been able to kind of follow him around at practice and at camps and other things like that, really, really fun kid, really good personality. But when it comes to getting down and being serious and playing football, he's all business. So
because he wants to beat you.
Yeah, and he's
one
very
of those kids that wants to win. He's one of those guys that wants to win every rep.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And coaches absolutely love those dudes.
Exactly. And he was a guy, one thing that stood out to me real quickly at those VTO camps I did ISO on was he was a guy that, was lining up at corner trying to guard guys. I mean, he wanted to do that. It wasn't someone like coach, like, we don't have any room at linebacker, go play over there. It was Rah-Rah was like, I'm going to go out there and cover somebody and show people that I can do that. So a guy that's got confidence like that, not only confidence in himself, but the versatility and the physical ability to go out there and actually do it and be successful at it. I mean, no reason to believe that if everything goes to plan for Rah-Rah, he's going to be a kid down the line that's going to be starting on that defense and getting a ton of reps. So, yeah, really fun kid, really nice kid, and going to be interesting to see how he continues to develop, not only going into fall camp in this season, but moving forward until his later years in Chapel Hill. But it's a good place to wrap this one up, AJ. I had to get Rah-Rah Dillworth in here at some point because, as you'll see in this video, we just got a ton of footage of that guy. So, yeah, as always, guys, if you have
Kevin's footage.
Yeah, I'm about to say, Kevin had a ton from him. He got some great footage. I particularly like the one I ran in the beginning before the spring game, which kind of really, really represents Rah-Rah's kind of personality and swagger, where Kevin's got a great shot of him kind of turning his jersey around and pointing like that and looking at Kevin. He's a guy who knows where the camera is, and I can vouch for that too because the few instances I've recorded him, he's known exactly where I've been at for the whole camp. So yeah, definitely some really good footage of Rah-Rah in here.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. You got to have guys like that.
I like it, man. I'm all for it. I'm all for stuff like that. I'm a big fan of stuff like that. And, it's a sport, man. You're supposed to have fun doing it. So I love when guys go out there and do things like that. Yeah. So good place to wrap this one up, AJ. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. If you haven't seen the ISO videos we've done, make sure you check that one out after this one's done. And head on over to our website, TarIllustrated.com. You can find a link to that in the description below. And sign up for our premium access for just $8.33 a month. As always, guys, like, share, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks.